The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Kyle Torpy from the Crypto Feed.
What's up, y'all? Great to be back on the Bitcoin Group for the first time in a year or two, I guess.
Welcome back, Kyle. Ben Ark from BTC IoT.
Hello all. Great to see Kyle back. Actually, I'm expecting a Bitcoin pump because of it.
Josh Gagala from Vaultoro.
Yibbida, folks. That's not all, folks.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1, $50 million. Square, the payments company run by dual CEO Jack Dorsey, also of Twitter fame, has purchased $50 million worth of Bitcoin, investing 1% of their total wealth in the fledgling cryptocurrency. Following MicroStrategy's recent purchase of 250, now $425 million in Bitcoin, corporations everywhere seem like they're lining up, waiting to buy. Kyle Torpy, I ask you, is this good for Bitcoin?
I think this is very good for Bitcoin. It reminds me of like 2013, 2014. You guys will remember when we had all these publicly traded companies or big companies that were accepting Bitcoin for goods and services. And so the merchant adoption meme was a lot bigger back then. Obviously, that wasn't really as impactful or meaningful as a lot of us thought. But this seems, it's like the same thing, but this is a lot more impactful, I think, because it's a store value use case that, it seems clear that that's what makes sense right now. Maybe payments will come later, maybe later this decade, especially with things like Lightning and development and other layer 2 technologies where it seems like payments are going to be taking place on. And it seems like this is something that we could see more of, like I said, in 2013, 2014, the merchant adoption thing was mainly just like a promotional tool. So like these companies weren't really that concerned about accepting Bitcoin or things like that, but they were more just interested in getting the free PR from, putting out a press release that says, Overstock accepts Bitcoin or Newegg accepts Bitcoin or whatever. And we could see that same kind of thing happen again. And Square did publish that white paper along with their announcement that gives other companies that want to do a similar thing, kind of a blueprint strategy for how they can do it too without, experiencing too much slippage or something if they're trying to make a big purchase. So overall, it's great news. And we got the Rodolfo from CoinKite making the bitcointreasuries.org website too, where we can track all the publicly traded companies that are, putting Bitcoin in their reserves. And maybe he'll have to update it in the future with the central banks around the world that decide to hold some Bitcoin in their reserves.
It does definitely seem like they're using Bitcoin more as a store of value. I don't think that Square or MicroStrategy have anything that they're saving up to buy. Ben Ark, your thoughts on the exciting new Bitcoin purchases?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bitcoin's proved people thought that it was a volatile asset when, all this COVID stuff kicked off and Bitcoin's price bounced about a bit, but it's actually been remarkably stable. And all these people who have capital and wealth which they want to secure, that it makes sense if they've got a diverse portfolio to put 1% in Bitcoin. And with Square, it's only 1%, I think, of their holdings. It's not a large amount of money for them, but it makes sense that it's on their sheet, on their one of their ways of securing their wealth, and it's exactly what we've seen with the MicroStrategy. And word gets around among these rich people, and they'll start pouring just a few percent into Bitcoin. What's been amazing with all of this is the lack of reaction from the market. Bitcoin's prices still remain pretty stable despite people plowing quite a lot of, people removing quite a lot of Bitcoin from the market and holding it. So that's interesting, and I think we're going to talk about that in a later topic, so I won't cover that too much. But it just makes sense to have it as part of your portfolio now. And as Kyle said, it will make sense also for banks to have it as part of their portfolio. So just a matter of time. We just got to sit and wait.
Josh Gagala.
Boom. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on your timing, right? If you get the timing wrong, like if this was the sort of December 2017, November 2017, the fiduciary duty to do something good for the company might be a little bit reckless. But I think it has been stable. It's been on a slow uptrend. Any major corporation that does want to hedge that craziness that's happening in the market with I mean, anybody that's looking around and seeing this whole Corona nightmare play out and seeing stock markets keep on going up is going to go, hang on, there's something wrong. I might choose plan B, which is Bitcoin.
Exit question. What will Square do with the Bitcoin? Kyle Torpy.
With the Bitcoin that they just bought, I assume they're just hodling it. But I was actually thinking about this earlier today in terms of how they'll eventually adopt Bitcoin. Well, you can already buy and sell on the app, but maybe better integrate it into payments and everything. It seems like they're building towards a play with Lightning, where Bitcoin's Lightning Network basically enables them to adopt a lot more users around the world who don't have good forms of identification that they would usually need to put their users through KYC and stuff like that. Instead, they can grab new users by making a Lightning wallet for them instead. And that goes into like the stablecoin stuff too, kind of, where like that's one of the reasons stablecoins aren't probably going to work long term, because eventually they're going to come with some sort of crackdown where it's like KYC every stablecoin transaction or something, because it's much easier to regulate than Bitcoin. Because with the stablecoins, you have obviously like a bank account or something backing the stablecoin itself. And even with like the more decentralized alternatives like DAI and things like that, you still have like a federation of oracles that are used to peg the price and everything. So yeah, I think they're gonna. I mean, Jack Dorsey invested his own money in Lightning Labs as well, if I remember correctly. So it seems clear that they are looking at this as a long-term play with the Bitcoin hodling, and then they're going to eventually have some kind of Lightning integration for Cash App users, and I guess their Square point-of-sale system as well, I would assume.
Kyle's onto it. It's even possible that Square could make no risk, very small amounts of interest by loaning on the Lightning Network and allowing liquidity for the network. Ben Ark, what will Square do with the Bitcoin? Is it different than MicroStrategy?
I mean, I'm sure Jack is aware of the success and popularity of something like LNTX Spot on Telegram, just within a small group of enthusiast channels, and the concept of being able to sort of throw very small amounts of money around Twitter could be really exciting. I know he's a very conservative developer, and Twitter hasn't changed very much. When you look at something like Facebook and how much that's changed over the years, but Twitter's still remained pretty similar. So it's not something he's going to rush into, but and I'm sure also that it's something he wants to do in a way which is censorship resistant and doesn't make them accountable to regulators. So I'm not sure how they're going to get around that, but it just makes sense. It's such a great form of communication, like in LNTX Spot. Just on, if no one's used LNTX Spot, by the way, it's a Lightning wallet which you can have in Telegram, and you can just use to throw money between people and tip people, and you can like do coin flips and things. It's a load of fun. So I would like to see that rolling into Twitter at some point. But yeah, I mean, it's Bitcoin. It's the longest time it's ever been over $10,000. So I think it's fairly momentous, and a lot of people who understand Bitcoin, they're willing to bet that it's probably going to go up from here. And then it's what he does, with that newfound wealth. Will he continue to hold it, or then and start, converting into fiat, maybe trying to, I don't know, encourage the Bitcoin ecosystem to grow even more. So hopefully Bitcoin on Twitter, like LNTX bot one day.
Josh Gagala, what will Square do with the Bitcoin?
Yeah, no, I'm with Kyle on this one. It's liquidity on the Lightning Network. The thing is, if you have one player giving too much liquidity or having too many nodes, it's kind of like the CIA having too many exit nodes on Tor. So you kind of want to not have one player controlling too much liquidity, but it would still be great, and it would make it more workable. People would jump on, and I mean, wow, Twitter, come on, Jack, bring it on.
Moving on to issue 2, moon mode. Bitcoin price fundamentals in moon mode as the amount of Bitcoin held on exchanges drops. Analysts believe Bitcoin's on-chain fundamentals point to a 2017 style bull run. Ben Ark, we ask you, because there's less Bitcoin on the exchanges, is Bitcoin entering moon mode? Will we call this the beginning of the 2020 or perhaps 2021 moon cycle?
It's that thin slither of Bitcoin which is being exchanged by traders, which can push the price around quite significantly, because but as the Podler bedrock increases, then the amount of variation the price can have is going to lessen, just as that as the amount of people exchanging Bitcoin on exchanges lessen. So this is really good news, I think. There was something in the article about DeFi tokens and how some of the Bitcoin might be getting what's a word, staked on DeFi tokens. But I think, again, like, more and more people are starting to realize that actually, if you've just got Bitcoin, in the future, and currently, but even more so in the future, there'll be lots of ways for you to just monetize on the Bitcoin you have. So I think that also encourages people just to hodl some Bitcoin and then wait for that to grow, and then maybe stake on things. So that's interesting also. But no, the hodler bedrock is getting stronger, and it's the price is getting higher, and it's that the amount of people exchanging Bitcoin is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, just on exchanges. So yeah, it's great, it's good, and it's exactly what we want when we have got unstable times ahead, to know that a vast majority of Bitcoin is off exchanges in hardware wallets, and hard to access and hard to make spur of the moment decisions on.
DeFi is a much more fun way than the way I've been saying it. I've been saying DeFi, but DeFi sounds like DeFi worthless. DeFi worthless.
It's one of those things, when you don't know how to pronounce something because you really don't give a fuck, and like, you very rarely talk about it, or so I'm probably just saying it wrong, but I think it's probably the first time I've ever said it. So
I like it. I think it's fun, and also the DeFi as well could always be degenerate finance or decentralized finance. So a bit of a mess there for the acronym. Josh Gagala, are we in moon mode? Should we take our protein pills and put our helmet on?
Yeah, absolutely. You should constantly be doing that. There's so much happening. There's so much happening in terms of development. I'm one of those perma bulls. I've been for a long time, so I just anything that goes off of exchanges, even though we run an exchange, we always tell people, hey, take your money off of exchanges, because that's the whole point. And the funny thing with Bitcoin is, it's kind of got, as long as exchanges use on-chain transactions, it's kind of got its own plunge protection built in, by like the blocks just getting full and no one be able to get their Bitcoin onto an exchange. But low liquidity also means higher volatility. Not just to the upside, it can also be to the downside. And you don't know I haven't read that particular article, but the thing is that we just had, Bitmex move a whole lot of coins. Is that taking 45,000 Bitcoin into consideration or something like that? I'm not sure where they're getting the numbers from. But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin off of exchanges can also mean massive dumps because there's less liquidity.
You kind of have to assume that the Bitmex coins are probably being withdrawn from one exchange to another exchange. If you're a gambler out there on the exchange, you're not going to become a hodler and get a hardware wallet just because your gambling site goes down. You're going to find another gambling site, I would think. So.
Yeah.
But the evidence will probably show that. They can generally show things like inflows to exchanges, so we might get an answer to that. Moving on to the exit question. And remember, you will be competing against the predictor of predictors, prognosticator of prognosticators, the Bitcoin Magic 8-Ball. Kyle Torpy, will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week?
Next week? Oh, I was hoping for next year. I'll say no, because yesterday I was just tweeting that I was almost going to tweet that I haven't been this bullish on Bitcoin since like 2016 or something. So I think that means we're probably due for a pullback because I'm not a very good trader. So I will say lower.
I always feel the same way. Ben Ark, higher or lower?
You got me questioning myself. No, I higher, baby.
Josh Gagala.
I'm going to say lower because, we're above 11K and it'll just come back down a little bit.
And now the Bitcoin 8-Ball. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week?
Higher, baby.
Says. I can't read it, man. It's too dark in here. Hold on a sec. Just as
the procrastinator.
Oh, there we go. Concentrate and ask again. Concentrate and ask again. So better luck next week, degenerate gambles. The ball will not speak to you. It will not give you the answers that you seek. But you could get the answers you seek at worldcryptonetwork.store. Check out the World Crypto Network store where you can get the World Crypto Network mug, the same mug that I'm drinking out of today. The Treasures Don't Float t-shirt, Bitcoin Not Bomb special, Bitcoin Halvening 2020 edition. Remember 2020, we were so excited about the halvening. Seems so long ago. We've also got World Crypto Network, the shirt. Check it out at worldcryptonetwork.store. Moving on to issue 3, Goldman Sachs warned it will soon be scrambling to catch up on Bitcoin. We've been saying it, and we've been saying it. The banks, the investment banks, the Wall Street giants are far behind on Bitcoin. They haven't done their homework, and it's catching up to them. Josh Gagala, what will Goldman Sachs do? Will they acquire a company like Coinbase or another exchange like Kraken or Bitmex? Will they buy their way into this industry? How will Goldman Sachs catch up with Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean the CFO just joined Block One, so that's an interesting move from Block One. The thing is, Wall Street is getting very excited about DeFi, and it's one of these things where, I mean, I think it's also very interesting. I mean, just the fact that you can have shapeshift in a contract that's floating in the cloud, so to speak, in the fog, is pretty epic. Even though it's just trading a bunch of stuff that no one knows what they do, it's still pretty amazing. And so we're starting to see some really interesting use cases there. I do really think Maker and coins like that are interesting because of how they work and loaning stuff to yourself and controlling inflation through people voting. I think there's some really interesting stuff happening, and I think Goldman Sachs is also then thinking, I know that there is a lot of people very, very hot on that front, especially on the whole Ethereum front. They are very, very much interested in all of that.
Kyle Torpy. I think that we're going to see a lot of banks look more like crypto asset companies and we're going to see a lot of crypto asset companies look more like banks. Like we see Kraken with their moves in Wyoming, turning into a bank, basically a full reserve banking institution. And it's kind of just a continuation of this trend in fintech, like over the past 10 years or so, even starting with PayPal, where, bank is really just becoming another app on your phone now. And a lot of people my age and younger, they, trade stocks or whatever on Robinhood or Cash App even. So it's really just like an interface in your pocket. Again, it's becoming like a more and more important aspect of a financial institution. And it makes sense that crypto would be part of that. People want to be able to open their bank account, look at it in their phone, and then, go to another tab and use their bank account to buy some Bitcoin. And that makes a lot of sense. So I don't know about Goldman Sachs specifically, but I'm sure we're going to see, things like Cash App and Robinhood and Uphold and all those other kind of apps that merge banking and Bitcoin together, growing in popularity.
Ben Ark.
Isn't like Fat Stacks Novogratz company merging with Goldman Sachs or something? I'm sure there's something like that in the article. I'm just trying to get it up. But no, Defi, Shapeshift. I mean, Shapeshift was a super useful tool back in the day. These experiments, you got to remember as well, like the talent which is coming into fintech and Bitcoin, continually coming into Bitcoin and fintech. Wall Street was for a long time. These big banks, they were kind of a vacuum for talent. They would suck in talent. If you were just like a gifted young person, then it made sense for you to go work for some big bank somewhere. But now a lot of these people are turning their hand to fintech and Bitcoin. And if you think about like Christian Decker I think he was the first person in the world to do a PhD, a Bitcoin specific PhD on payment channels. So with the idea like Lightning Network, but now there's tons of people doing PhDs, and they're all exploring these new concepts and ways of of things like the DeFi, for example. So it's of course Goldman Sachs, they need to adapt or sync, but I'm sure that Novogratz is involved in it in some way. Galaxy announced Goldman Sachs. No, that's not. No, I think I misread the. I think I misread the article, maybe. But
live streaming is on.
All right, keep going, Ben.
It's Galaxy Digital, isn't it? Which is Novogratz thing, and I think that's becoming part of Goldman Sachs. And then Novogratz, and he says that Goldman Sachs has a ton of talent and probably a whole bunch of people who want to experiment with decentralized finance, but haven't been allowed to up until now, or they had to do it in their spare time, but now they can do it as part of their work time as well. So they will have to adapt or die, and they probably will, because they're successful, big successful banks. Of course, they're going to adapt.
Moving on to the exit question: will Goldman Sachs buy Coinbase? Yes or no? Kyle Torpy.
No, I don't think Brian Armstrong will sell it.
Ben Ark.
I don't know. Maybe a few years, Brian Armstrong will buy Goldman Sachs. That'd be awful.
Ooh. Josh Gagala.
Yeah, I'm with Carl on that one as well. I don't think Brian will sell it. I think he's kind of like Facebook after Mark got offered $1 billion. He was like,
Ooh. No. Goldman Sachs will buy Coinbase. They'll drive a dump truck full of money up to his house. A dump truck. Moving on to issue 4. Bitmex in trouble. The Bitcoin and cryptocurrency world was rocked last week by news that U.S. authorities had levied charges against major Bitcoin and cryptocurrency exchange Bitmex and its leadership team. Josh Gagala, your thoughts on the Bitmex crisis?
yeah, I mean, this is typical states, typical governments. they go after the big players. Bitmex have never lost. Well, they haven't really lost massive amounts of coins or anything like that, and they've run a respectable business. Whether you like that business or not, it's really unfortunate, and it's this typical thing where governments go after a company once they're successful and just extort it for some sort of license that the government didn't even know they needed. Some sort of thing that they're doing that's kind of wrong at the time. I mean, you can argue, yeah, but at the end of the day, the free market came up with these wacky internet things, and people are trading them, and kids are trading gun skins online for billions of dollars. And it's not being regulated by anyone. It's just happening. But it's just weird. I don't know how long we'll keep on going where this is going to happen. And this is, again, another push towards this sort of decentralized finance model where Shapeshift got pushed out. And now we have Uniswap, which is pretty much Shapeshift. And they've reinvented the order book, in fact, which is really interesting, so that they can do this in a decentralized way, or as decentralized as possible. And so I think all this does is push it further and further out towards these smart contracts, towards code running on multiple computers around the world that is not run by anybody. The time's running out for this nonsense, and I hope Arthur hasn't. I mean, he's got enough cash to hire the best of the best. So, good luck to him.
Ben Ark, your thoughts on Bitmex?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to push the decentralized exchanges to, hopefully, they'll have some money thrown at them, because not nearly enough money is invested in that area. Maybe that's something which Jack could also invest some money into. But I mean, on the other side, it does give investors and the larger financial sector more confidence in Bitcoin when it sees a whole lot of regulated, brick and mortar type exchanges out there, rather than all these kind of grey alley exchanges. So I suppose the grey exchanges like Bitmex, their days are numbered, and you'll have the super vanilla, play by the book regulated exchanges, and then a whole bunch of decentralized exchanges, which will pretty much cater to anyone in the market, I suppose, because both are, there will be no room then for grey alley markets.
It also seems like the writing was on the wall with this one. First, they went after the Bitmex referral program, saying that people in the US were promoting the referral codes to people in the US. And there was even those videos where the guy said, hey, you can trade on Bitmex and get derivatives. Just use a VPN. I'll show you how. And there's that kind of stuff where it was really obvious that this was, an exchange for the Mexican people in name only, and that it was being used by others. So it seemed like it was going to happen, and now it's happened.
But a lot of it's kind of like pioneering in a way, because you're testing the water. You're saying, how far can I push in this direction? And then now, they've gone a lot of trouble because of that. So, part of me kind of has to respect them pushing at the regulators and trying to see how far they could, bend the law.
Well, and like Josh said, fortunately, they were pioneering in a profitable industry, and now they have a war chest full of money they can use to hire lawyers and whatever else they need to do to try to continue this or survive pioneering. Let's go to Kyle Torpy. Your thoughts on Bitmex?
Yeah, so I have two main thoughts on this. I agree with Josh that it is kind of like an early, one of the first government attacks kind of on Bitcoin itself. And I think we're going to see more of that this decade as Bitcoin becomes more relevant to governments. But the other thing is, like Josh and Ben both were talking about this proving the need for DeFi or proving that DeFi exchanges are good, and I agree with that. But the thing that kind of gets overlooked, I think, here is that Bitmex is still operating and doing fine, mostly because they use Bitcoin multisig. And that's kind of like the joke I was making to some Ethereans on Twitter was like, yeah, it's great that Bitmex is DeFi because they were unable to keep, or they were able to keep operating. And, since, they weren't holding funds in like bank accounts or anything, they didn't get their funds seized or anything like that. So it brings up that question of like, as these government attacks increase over the next decade, like how much decentralization do you need for your business or project or thing like that? So like Bitmex was able to withstand this attack just with Bitcoin multisig and being set up in a different jurisdiction. And then you have things like Liquid and RSK, which are like federated side chains, which are like even more decentralized versions of the smaller multisig that Bitmex I think is a 3 or 4. I didn't see how exactly it's set up, but then you have like Liquid is 13 functionaries, I think, or something. So you can have these quasi decentralized networks with things like Liquid and RSK, and it allows you to extend Bitcoin with a lot of different functionality in a way that may be sufficiently decentralized, and we'll probably be able to see whether or not these federated chains are sufficiently decentralized over this decade. If you can imagine, like if someone made a CoinJoin implementation for the Liquid sidechain, like would governments start going after the Liquid sidechain because they're kind of in control of this thing that enables anonymous payments and things like that. And it's all basically connected to the Oracle problem, even with stablecoins too, where it's like, how decentralized can we actually make these things? And will it be decentralized enough for resistance to government control and censorship and takedowns? And it also, the one last thing, it makes me think of a blog post that Gavin Andreessen made before Ethereum even launched. And then he basically just said, like, Ethereum looks cool, but I don't see, what useful things you can do it that you can't do with Bitcoin multisig. And it seems like we're seeing that start to play out a little bit because these decentralized applications on Ethereum usually do have some kind of point of failure due to the Oracle problem still. And so it's going to be interesting to see that play out and see like how much decentralization people desire. Are they okay with like using Bitcoin on Ethereum? Do they want to use like RSK? I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things to track there.
I think there'll definitely be more decentralization and more attacks in the future. Moving on to the exit question. Will Bitmex survive this disaster? Yes or no? Josh Gagala.
Oh yeah, I think they will. They will just have to pay a hell of a lot of money as a bribe or a fine, whatever you want to call it, and then they'll get on with business. Yep.
Ben Ark.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they'll survive. And testament to the power of multisig, which I don't know if anyone attended the HCPP thing last weekend, but there was a lot of people talking about multisig and making it easier for normal people to have access to multisig in a way which isn't going to endanger their funds with things like Spectre Wallet. So yeah, great. They'll continue to survive.
Kyle Torpy.
Yeah, like they said, it seems like they'll continue to operate and survive, and maybe we'll see greater developments in the Bitcoin DeFi space with multisig in the next few months.
Yeah, not only that, you have Bitmex Ventures also buying up a whole bunch of exchanges around the world, in Japan and all sorts. So there's, they've got their fingers in a lot of pies. So even if the brand Bitmex goes away in one way, it just won't. Yeah, it'll continue.
Especially now. Remember when Binance just up and moved to Malta and then didn't even move to Malta? I don't even know where they are now. But yeah, it's going to continue. It's going to be exciting. And we're getting to the end of the show. We're going to move on to predictions or story of the week. Ben, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
Not really, but I can have a little rant on about all the amazing development work which is going on in LN-Bits at the moment. Fiat Jaff, the guy who made LNTX bot and has been instrumental in the LNURL stuff. He's put in tons of PRs. There's a whole bunch of new extensions on there, so you can do LNURL Pay. There's a cool extension for LND Hub, so you can connect your Blue wallet on your phone to your LN-Bits wallet if you want to do that. I tell you what I did do is I set up, and I'll do a tutorial for this. I set up an instance of LN-Bits running on a VPS with a domain, paid for with Bitcoin in an anon way, so you could have like a pop-up LN-Bits, and I think it took me like 10 minutes, 20 minutes to set up. So I want to kind of really get it down nice and tight, and then do a tutorial on and it was like $10 or something. So $10, 10 minutes, and then you'll have like this custodial thing which you could have as a pop-up, and then you could use it in a conference or for a Bitcoin meetup or something, and just play around with some of the funky stuff it can do.
Sounds great. Josh Gagala, you ready with a prediction or story of the week?
The story of the week is basically that I've just been running a business in the crypto space, and it's just constant ups and downs and all arounds. And for me, it's exciting because we're getting ready for the next bull run. We're really getting some great developments out, and we launched our referral program, which is really cool. You get 0.5 gram of gold when you refer someone, and they get 0.5 gram as well once they've traded a little bit. And there's just so much going on. And the next bit, which Ben will love, is that we've started to go down the track of the Lightning Network stuff as well, to get that back in there. But there's some other little things we're fixing with the interface. But yeah, that's the story. That's a pretty boring story of the week, folks. I am sorry, but it's exciting for me.
Check it out at Vaultoro.com, just like your hat.
Yep, that's
all right. Kyle Torpy, prediction or story of the week, and also let the people know what you're working on lately.
Yeah, I forgot about the story of the week thing, so I didn't prepare one. But if you go, I've been working on this website, the Crypto Feed, at the cryptofeed.net, and there is a section on the homepage that's called Top Stories this week. So I suppose you could go there and look at the top ones from the past week, where John McAfee getting sued and arrested. The IRS is being investigated for using location data without a warrant. Obviously,
was McAfee arrested? Was he?
I can't believe I forgot to mention him. He's so fun to talk about. We're gonna have to talk about him after. Go ahead,
I think it might have happened like the Thursday last week. I don't remember when it actually happened. So,
wow.
But yeah, this is what I've mainly been working on lately. I still do writing sometimes, and all of my articles are published on the Crypto Feed now, and it's basically just a news aggregator that is manually curated by me throughout the day. And there's also a videos section that I curate not as often, but you can go in there and watch the World Crypto Network's videos are on the feed and everything. So I'm sure this will be up there later today.
Very cool.
Yeah. So this is, and I've been talking to Ben about using LN-Bits to add some sort of Lightning integration to the site. I'm still thinking about how that can work, but maybe something like just being able to log in with Lightning for the comments section at first, and then maybe we'll be able to, send payments to each other in the comments section, or, get paid for posting a really good comment. Still trying to figure out what makes sense and everything, but yeah, this is what I've been working on more recently than writing.
All right, very cool. And you can check it out at thecryptofeed.net. But now we have to do a bonus issue because Kyle reminded us about McAfee. So as Kyle said, McAfee was arrested for tax evasion in Spain. Previously, I'd heard that he was on a boat in the middle of the high seas, maybe in international waters, where he would be safe from this. As you guys know, McAfee Antivirus, a major pioneer in antivirus, a major pioneer in weapons and saying crazy things and having documentaries called Gringo on Netflix and other things, but also a fan of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. It looks like in this case, he's being taken down for his, what was it called? It's called like altcoin of the day project or ICO of the day, and he would promote a different altcoin or ICO every day. I forget the exact number, but it sounded like he made something like $120 million promoting these altcoins and then didn't report it to the IRS. Josh Skagala, what do you think about the John McAfee situation? Is this the time that he finally pays? Is this the time that they catch him and keep him? Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Giacomo on this one, that, you know, as much as I don't like shitcoins, I'll stand behind McAfee to promote whatever the fuck he wants. I mean, it's not like the people buying this shit weren't like trying to do the same as him with less clout. I mean, you know, they were just trying to sell it for the next. It's just a big game. It's la la land. I mean, I think it is terrible when what I find what people should be put in prison in when they go after people that are not technocrats, that are grandmas or something, and they're getting told to that this is the IRS, please send us Bitcoin. You know, these are real scams. McAfee going out there and spamming some shit on Twitter and people actually going and buying it because they want to get rich quick. I mean, it's, you know, it was the Wild West, and people need to burn their hands to realize that. They need to understand that obviously the guy is going to be selling into the market. Like, he's not stupid. And this educated a whole bunch of people. So it's basically a schooling system to learn what life is about, that people are trying to take money out of your pocket, folks. So you know, I think it's ridiculous. I think I don't think he should be around. I think he should definitely apologize to a lot of people if he was selling in. Of course he was. I mean, I never bought anything that he said because I knew as soon as he says it, it's going to pump, and he's selling into it. I mean, it's just, you know, it doesn't take too many brain cells to rub together to figure that out. And yeah, so I don't know. That's my take on it, I think. And it's funny. The whole McAfee thing's weird. He lives this sort of cartel lifestyle without actually being a cartel. Like, he just does nothing illegal, really. You know, but he has all these, someone's going after me. It's just the weirdest thing. I don't know. It's like he likes to live like a drug dealer without being a drug dealer.
It's definitely more revealed if you watch the movie as well. Ben Ark, your thoughts on McAfee?
Yeah, I mean, he's a scammer, but I think a lot of us just have a warm place in our heart for him for whatever reason, which is odd. I think maybe because it almost was so transparent, this like ICO of the day malarkey. I remember there was this one like ICO, and I think it was during some conference or something, and they looked after him and his wife for, I think it was like a weekend or something. But I remember McAfee documenting on his Twitter, and they spent a fortune, though, flying around in private helicopters, and they were like renting out, you know, entire clubs and stuff. And he was like, you know, I've calculated they probably spent like $250,000 on me and my girlfriend over this. And it was so, you know, he would then go and pump their shitcoin. So he was cashing in, and you know, I suppose he's standing by his ethics as a libertarian, do what he wants. And I mean, yeah, it is bad to push scams, and the people who, you know, suffer in the end are the vulnerable, which is sad. And that does suck. I mean, I would have loved to have seen the takedown, because, you know, you see these interviews with the guy, and he's usually got like armed guards around him, and they're all very twitchy and have their guns ready to draw. So, you know, it'd be fascinating if there was some sort of shootout or something, you know, something dramatic which came along. But I imagine at some point there'll be a great film all about McAfee. And you know, he is pretty gangstery if they're going after him for tax evasion, which is, you know, the Capone classic. But no, he's the scammer poster boy who, for some reason, just, I don't know, for a lot of us Bitcoiners, we have a warm, fluffy place in our heart for him for some strange reason.
The warm place is a very strange thing. I know for me, booting up all those computers in the computer labs, all those DOS machines over the years, McAfee antivirus was almost always on the screen right after DOS. So it's like they've indicted DOS, like Microsoft DOS.
I mean, he invented antivirus. You know, he had a virus, and then he wrote a script, and then he shared the script for free. And then people were like, "This is cool," you know. And then there was another virus, and he wrote another script for it, and then that eventually just turned into McAfee antivirus. I mean, he's had so little to do with that company for such a long time. He even produced that amazing video of him explaining how to uninstall McAfee antivirus. But yeah, he's an eccentric. The world will be a little less boring, a little bit more boring once he finally pops his clogs.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
say
but I
the
mean-
other half of the McAfee interest is that kind of libertarian cowboy interest. He's out there playing by his own rules. He's got his guns and so on and so forth. And again, this always ends. The government's like a giant wall. You just always come up against it somewhere. Kyle Torpy, your thoughts on McAfee and his excitement to this week?
Yeah, he's always been a great meme. I agree with, I think Josh's description of how he lives a cartel life without actually running a cartel is pretty perfect. Yeah, I don't know how he thought he was going to get away. I remember thinking like during 2016, 2017, whenever it was when he was pumping all these coins, I was gonna be like, well, he's going to get arrested or fined or something at some point. Like this is really blatant, and he's like always taunting law enforcement and 3-letter agencies and everything. So I was like, this is going to end badly for him at some point. And I mean, yeah, there was like a lot of that kind of activity around that time, obviously, and we're still seeing people get punished for their activities during that time. And I mean, it makes me think of the Barstool Sports guy too, when he was talking to the Winklevoss twins, and the Winklevoss twins were telling him about Bitcoin. He was like, "Why don't everyone else is saying I should just buy Davecoin and pump and dump that? It seems like I could make more money that way." And it's like, yeah, I don't think it's very wise or intelligent to do these sort of pump and dump schemes very publicly and then taunt the governments at the same time and think you're going to be able to get away with it. But I guess McAfee thought he had the protection around him with his cartel protection to get away with it, but doesn't seem like it worked out.
So had he paid his taxes, would he have got away with it?
Probably.
Well, I think there was 2 separate charges. One was from the SEC, and then there was also not paying taxes.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe he just found himself in because he didn't want to lose that bet. So he's like, if I'm in prison under guard, then I can't eat my dick. Yeah.
No, I think, yeah, part of it is the not reporting the taxes. The other part is, like Josh was saying, selling into it. It might be some kind of insider trading, some kind of stock rule thing there. But yes, it's been a very exciting and interesting story of John McAfee. We've covered him several times on here, especially like Ben said, that he would eat his own dick if the price of Bitcoin didn't break. Was it like 200K by the end of this year? I think
$1 million.
Oh, it was $1 million. Oh God, $1 million by the end of this year. Well, so we're right. That's probably not going to happen.
He's still got time.
It could happen. It could happen.
Got a very good excuse not to, though. Now, you know.
Yeah, now that he's in jail, like clearly it's a thing. But yeah, we've been
I
covering.
don't know. Jail food's pretty terrible. Maybe his dick tastes better.
He'll probably eat somebody else's dick, won't he? So, yeah.
Shit.
One of the best stories, though, where we were at the TCC conference in Transylvania last year, and Theo was there, and he'd just come in from the hallway. He wasn't even watching the speech, and they said, "We need someone to ask a question to McAfee," and no one really wanted to do it. Everyone's kind of afraid of him, and they go to Theo, and Theo says, "You know, Mr. McAfee, what's your favorite gun?" And boy, did he love this question. He just lit up and he's like, well, it depends if you mean for home protection or for out on the range, the distance. I mean, I like a handgun. I like a shotgun for this. The guy just loved the question. So it really is. You just got to ask someone a good question. Doesn't matter who they are. You can get them to give you a good answer. So I just want to once again thank everybody for purchasing t-shirts and mugs at worldcryptonetwork.store. We made like $100 over there, so it's pretty cool. So keep buying shirts. Treasures Don't Float is a great shirt to have. I heard the Monero guy, Fluffy Pony, was on another news show, and he was telling this lady over and over again how he lost all of his cryptocurrency in a boating accident, and she wasn't getting it. He just kept telling her, and she's just like, "Oh, that's so terrible. Why would you take all of your keys with you on that boat?" And he said again, he's like, "Oh, I do it every time. It's just the kind of thing I like to do. I just take these with me, and I'll lose my money every time. It's hilarious." I don't know.
I love your South African.
That's a pretty good Fluffy Pony.
Right.
So, but yeah, Fluffy Pony doing a little promotion there for the Treasures Don't Float T-shirt. So
Yeah.
Very cool stuff. And thanks to everybody for giving us a thumbs up and a share. We're going to the end of the show. It's fun to be back. I don't really have a great voice. There's all kinds of politics stuff happening. We've been covering that on the Thomas Hunt Show, so check that out. There's another YouTube channel out there, and some of that's on the World Crypto Network too. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to look for that end stream button. Until next time, bye-bye.